And we are back a week later, but obviously for you guys it hasn't really been a week. Antroid and Alfonzo once again.
Hello.
Yep, and we are in map 12, the shipyard, but before we proceed I have a couple things I have to say about the previous maps, since this week at work I replayed them, had a lot of fun, didn't impede myself with the not using the mouse, so I didn't even die once, which was kind of interesting because there was a lot of those chain gunner moments which I thought I'd die during. And I don't really have that much in-depth stuff to say, but there's some, so let's declare to a couple of them.
Yeah, let's go ahead. I am kind of surprised you didn't die even once, even after knowing the maps. I know there are some encounters in Doom 2 that I still struggle with, even though I know them back to back. That's what Doom 2 is like. I mean, it's you're overloaded with items and power-ups and stuff, and it feels like it's, you know, you're just overwhelmingly godlike, and then you'll get to one part and all of a sudden, wham, bam, thank you ma'am, dead on the spot.
Well, I was pretty close a couple times, but I remembered the more devious chain gunner traps and I took out my plasma rifle beforehand, so I kind of managed to survive all of them. And I didn't even remember the maps that well, only a couple of encounters. So I kind of had to find my way through most of them again, and this time I didn't have nearly much trouble because I tried this new thing called paying attention, where the locked doors are, primarily because I seem to have well, last time when we were recording I didn't really see or remember where they were, so that gave me trouble, and I didn't look at what any switch did. I just kind of ran around blindly until I saw some corridor that it looked like I wasn't there before, so that was my strategy, and obviously it's not the best strategy here. The general impression of the maps overall, the first 11 maps, is pretty close to what I was saying last time, in that they are a bit, maybe slightly too competent and too neat to be really exactly like Doom 2, because there, of course, there is a little misalignment here and there, but it doesn't really overwhelm the overall competence, because especially the layouts and such, they are very really, as I was saying last time, I actually was surprised that I really thought the exact same thing when I was rewatching upon editing and when I was replaying. So exact same thoughts there, that the layouts are a bit more complex, the gameplay is a bit more refined, shall we say, because there is all these fancy stuff like when you go for a key you loop back around a different way, or there's a teleporter conveniently to get you back, because I mean in the original, I tried to remember the original levels, couldn't be arsed to actually go and look at them, but I tried to remember them, and it definitely felt like there was a lot of backtracking there in the early maps. You got a key, then you go back the exact same way, maybe a couple monster closets open, and that's the extent of it.
There might be in a couple of the McGee maps, yeah. Although I do think Sandy and Murray do a pretty good job of keeping the layouts interconnected. Although what you say is certainly true. I mean, I think it was one of the very first things we said about the map set. In fact, when you were playing through map 1, there are inevitably going to be those modern elements that have you know, become part of your style that you just can't get rid of. And so that's a criticism that, you know, we're willing to accept. And I'm not sure if I said this last time, but that's also something that we actually want. You know, understanding that it's inevitable that you're not going to get it exactly how you like it, it gives it a bit of character to see where you failed to sort of match the style as well. Like, oh, okay, I can see a bit of Esselfordium style creeping in here, even though he's tried to do a McGee. You know, he's done a pretty good job, but he couldn't help himself. He did, you know, this sort of perfectly looping layout, and he's done this sort of Essel architecture. I think it gives it a bit of charm, honestly, and some people seem to have the same impression.
Well, as I said before, I am not really here for the exact following of the style, I am here more for the feeling, and that's why I don't really have a... except for this fucking place.
Actually, I was going to mention this last time when you were looking at those lights. I'm sure McGee would have done something like that, but more often what he does, and I'm sure Essel was aware of this as well, he just elected to do this instead, he would just... the ceiling and floor of that light sector would be it would be part of the same sector as the light as the sector it's shining into. Basically, he would just create an inlet without changing the sector. This is another technicality, I guess. But since you were so bothered by that error, I thought I might explain it.
I think it would have looked much more Doom 2, but my main problem wasn't actually. Well, maybe it was, but now it isn't because. Well, some things change. This map remains the least Doom 2 to me by feeling of the first 11 ones. Mostly, I don't know. It's not because this texture there wasn't like a level made out of green slimy bricks.
It wasn't the theme.
No. Actually, I wish it was more true to this theme, because then it jumps to the freaking brown bricks that we see everywhere anyways, and it's a bit of a waste. And this place particularly, it really looks like the thing that I was complaining way before about Back to Certain X, where kind of even within the Doom abstraction, you still can somehow, in some crazy way, make a bit of sense with your architecture. But here it makes absolutely. It looks like when there's two types of bricks like this, and the transitions are kind of intricate and symmetrical, so it makes it look like someone actually built this with the intention of it looking cool, and not just like some kind of sewer or something, which wouldn't have this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's what Doom 2 is all about. I mean, build it if it looks cool. If it makes sense, that's just a bonus. So yeah, that one's on you, Antroid.
There is a different approach. You see, obviously it's my subjective feeling here, but
sure.
I would have preferred it a bit more simple. And of course, maybe if it was me, I would just have replaced all these bricks with the green ones again and just made it all of green brick.
Okay.
But this, yeah, this.
I know it's another technicality, but what McGee might also elect to do in this area is when he does a transition between textures, like rather than switching immediately to the texture. Essel's kind of done it there, I guess, and it is a defendable point what he's done, but he tends to sort of alter the structure of it in such a way as to make it not look like such a sharp cut-off of textures. So, I mean, he's made it into a corner, which I guess is fine.
Well, I don't know, I don't think anything in Doom 2 left this impression on me just looking like it was made, well, for being fancy, not for being functional. I know it's the layouts and such in Doom are always really abstract, okay, but
leave it in.
But yeah, that's actually, I think it's kind of a Z-Doom thing, because from what I remember in Z-Doom, stuff always likes to grab onto ledges with the tiniest part of its collision somehow, really stupid ways. But okay, I don't think I would have not grabbed it if I went through here. I don't think it's possible to avoid grabbing it. Let's see. Unless, of course, I had 200 armor at this point. Well, so yeah, that's and this overall, this thing here, the device. I know you said it looked like something Maggie could have done, but in the large picture here, I think from what I remember from the early Doom levels, they weren't really as all-around polished, looks-wise and everything-wise, basically. If McGee did these things, he would have made them, I think he would have made them like a centerpiece of a room, and here there's just like this humble little decoration in the corner. But he would have been like, oh, look at me, I'm fancy with my sectors, look at this shit here. Would have put them in the center of the room and such. And there was definitely some balance between visuals and gameplay, and I think I might not remember all the maps, who did which maps too well, but so feel free to correct me, I guess. From my impressions, McGee was usually a bit more about the looks, and I remember that the first couple maps, his maps, of course, Underhalls, especially, they looked pretty nice, but the gameplay and the layouts were kind of boring, especially in the Underhalls again, because there's just like corridors. Sometimes there's a group of sergeants in front of you, shoot them once, they all die. And that's the extent of the gameplay, but they look neat. And then we have Romero, who had a bit better balance, and we have Sandy, who didn't really care about looks at all, but he had stronger ideas about the gameplay and more interesting layouts. I kind of see it that way. And then here in the McGee levels...
That's a pretty good assessment, actually, I think. I mean, to start with, I got some things to pick, bones to pick, but yeah. I think on the whole, it's a pretty good... There's obviously some exceptions going to be. I mean, I was very surprised to learn that Romero did Gotcha, if I'm not mistaken. Did he do Gotcha? Which one, sorry?
Gotcha. Map 12, 20.
Gotcha, map 20, yeah, that was his.
That was very, very surprising when I read the map list by author. What? I was sure it was Sandy's map, but okay. And here the gameplay is pretty well. The gameplay is unlike Doom 2 the most, I guess, because it's way more all around. I had this word that I forgot, but the word was basically would mean good. There was a fancier word for good that I wanted to use before I forgot it. Maybe I'll remember it some. Oh, sophisticated. Yes, this is it. Sophisticated. As I was saying before, it really shows that the authors who planned these maps, who made the layouts and the gameplay, they have a lot of experience with this shit and spend a lot of time playing Doom and knowing what's interesting, what flows well and such. And there is really not even nearly as amateurish as the actual Doom was. So that's well, of course I'm not really complaining about it, I'm just noting. And by the way, just in case some people think that everything I do is complain and criticize, by default everything else that I don't really mention, it means that I like it. So whatever I mention about the map in a negative way, it means that it's the only parts of the map which keep it from being pretty much flawless in my eyes. So I just don't bother saying, yeah, this is good, but, and then listing all my complaints. But yeah, there's that. And so I guess the main point is you should have tried to be a bit more shit at this thing. But
well, it's there's quite a lot of things to chew on there, actually. Hello, Map4. By the way, on Map4, I know you were talking about. Oh, you got the D-hack pat loaded this time. Because I was confused before as to why it was called the Silk Charts. It turns out that it's actually still called that if you don't have the D-hack patch. Fuck me sideways. Holy shit! It's a goddamn secret. Who couldn't read the rest of it? Interesting.
Well, probably you'll have time.
But yeah, two things to note there after that little soliloquy. The first is that, of course, while we're also trying to replicate the styles of the authors, we're doing a little bit more than that, or at least we attempted to do more than that, and that we're also trying to stick within the time frame of Doom 2, the development cycle. You know, it took a little over a year to make, no, under a year to make, yeah, 1993 to 1994. Yeah, best part of 8 months, I think, and clearly we took more than that. It was actually a massive period of inactivity before finally we put it all together in 10 months, which is so quite a long time. And during that period, you can imagine there's a lot of opportunity to start nitpicking at things where the authors, where id Software wouldn't have done that. They would have just glazed over it. I guess since it's not as though id Software were trying to replicate anyone else's style, they were just doing their own thing. So I guess that can excuse the sort of development time that we spent on things. But I guess that can in some way explain why it was that it seems in some way over-sophisticated.
Well, yeah.
Or a little too polished or overproduced.
I mean, it's understandable. I guess maybe you just some people probably just didn't really. They knew that they were going to replicate the styles which entail a bit worse quality, but they just couldn't bring themselves to do it. They just saw something that they thought was better and said, it's not really worth it. Let's make it more fun, maybe something like that.
Yeah, there would have been a lot of subconscious things creeping.
Yeah, you
well.
got to still think of how fun it's going to be in the end. I mean, you could go ahead and make a Superman 64 tribute or something, but who's going to play it?
God, no. Oh, God. We played through that recently, myself. The times when we played through on Overwatch, that was never again. Of course, then we went on to play Bubsy 3D in an effort to torture ourselves even further, so there you have it. Oh, the boiler is misaligned, that's interesting.
By the way, the boiler, I think, of the McGee maps, well, probably of the freaking 11 maps top, I think it's my favorite of these ones. It's
I'll be very glad to hear that.
Yeah, well, don't get too cocky, I still hate you for your coffee preferences.
For your own Antroid reasons.
The theme is probably the most interesting of all the... If map 3 was a bit more green brick stuff, it probably would have been a contender. But so, of all the themes as to how they were realized, and here the boiler is listing the tight lava metal stuff. I don't know, I'm just very interested in it. And I like this part when I found it, when I was replaying. I don't know, I just really like sometimes the areas where we have to explore only with the suit, because there's stuff on the
Yes.
floor that hurts you and
Yeah.
such. Although I would have thought that lava would have been, I don't know, a bit brighter. That's the only probably thing that I can nitpick about this map. I wish the parts with the lava would have been a bit brighter. But
Actually, I mean, that's funny. I was about to say that I really like the fact that the lava in this is doesn't cast any light whatsoever. That felt to me quite nostalgic when I played it. I like the contrast.
oh, by the way, there is some construction going on around here for some reason. I don't know if my microphone is going to pick it up, but
No, I can't hear that. No.
oh well, there's some drilling in the ceiling. But yeah, I don't know. There's probably not. Yeah, it's not like Doom to make lava really bright, but yeah, that's probably why I'm not really too upset about it. But I don't know. I usually make it very bright because I don't know. It just makes an interesting feeling for a place where you have really bright. It makes it feel a lot more hot. But I guess
Right.
maybe there is not really
I mean,
the point
there
here.
weren't a lot of moments in which McGee actually used lava in the first place. In fact, I think there's just one spot in map 22 and the one spot in map 6, or two spots in map 6, or something like that. One of them being outdoors. So we don't really have anything to go off there. But certainly Romero, when he used lava, he didn't really make it cast any light. It was all dark. See, for instance, the industrial zone, I think.
Well, maybe
And Sandy, for that matter. See
I don't know.
downtown.
Lava is maybe a bit too video gamey. Maybe they intended it to be something not exactly lava or something. Because I don't know what would lava do in a tech
It's
base.
called lava in the.
Well,
the
I mean,
Texas selection. Who knows?
a lot of things are called a lot of things in the, but they're not always what they're called. But yeah, the boiler is probably my favorite. But again, just where we start, there is so many ways here, so many little windows where the chain gunners are shooting us. It's way more complex and thought out than anything was in Real Doom 2, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, and I think it's been very well placed, if I do say so myself, which I do. After the previous McGee maps, which were pretty linear with a couple of optional tangents.
Yeah, and well, I cannot deny that I had a shit ton of fun playing this at work.
Good man.
Yeah, but well, it's not like I was skipping doing my stuff. I finished all my tasks that I could have done, and then I
believe you, Antroid.
I mean, honest. Our
The
game
more you
is
defend yourself, the more I sort of think twice.
well. I mean, it's not really. I don't know. Our game, the one that we are making, it's nearly complete, and there is not really much level designing to be done. So I'm mostly playtesting, and a lot of time I'm waiting for a free iPad to go and use it. Some people are using it to take like screenshots for the publisher and all. I was recording a 10-minute long video of the whole game, like for the publisher also. So
I think, although I'm not entirely certain, that Tarnsman might have actually come in at the last moment, with or without Pavera's, but probably with Pavera's permission. He's that sort of light-hearted guy, and fixed some of the support 3 usage in this map. He was very bugged by it. It was sort of used too well as a support texture, not enough as a structural texture in some areas, or it was overused or something like that. Tarnsman was very good like that. He was he's so nitpicky about things that bothered him. It's like he had an OCD for Doom 2 technicalities, which was great.
Also, this I went here and it reminded me of a thing I wanted to mention. The new enemy introductions. I tried to remember all of them in Doom 2, and I think most of them, if not all of them, were in situations where you can clearly see the enemy and you can assess like your strategy against the new enemy, try different things, and they are in front of you usually and not really. And here it's a really dickish introduction for Revenants, because you're in the lava grabbing the skin, they're just there where you cannot even really see them, and there's overall a really precarious situation here. I don't know if it's in the spirit. I don't know if they did it, if it did it consciously, if they introduced all enemies like that, or if it was just like chance.
I suspect they did. I really do think they did. I know the Revenant reveal on the Crusher is very memorable to me. It's possible that that's just because we played Doom 2 so much, or because we played them as kids that they stand out to us. But we did put a lot of thought into it. I think he actually kind of dropped the issue at one point. We were gonna go back through the first maps and really look at how the monsters were introduced, and we sort of did it half baked. I do think the way that Doom 2 does it is more effective than the way we've done it. I think the boiler kind of is very iffy on that point. I'm not going to blame Pavera for it, because he just left it to us. He trusted us to sort of look into those sort of things or to fix it later. I'm not dissatisfied with it or anything, but I don't think it is as striking as Doom 2's.
Well, neither am I. I mean, it's a very effective. I cannot really imagine how I would have reacted if I didn't know about Revenants, because I would have been already in a kind of stress situation running across lava mandatorily. But and then you hear that scream that I've never heard before. What the fuck is that? But well, I imagine it would have been as effective, really. I noticed that it was a bit less fair, I guess you could say, than how Doom 2 did stuff. But I'm not really. I like that introduction. I think it's very nicely set up.
Cool. Actually, I do have to correct myself on one point, because Essel did a really good job of introducing the Chain Gunner and the Keiko Demons in Map 3, I think. So I think I'm thinking more specifically of the Boiler.
I don't remember exactly how the chain guns were introduced, but I remember.
Well, that's not good.
Whoops.
Yeah, there's a yellow key pickup, and they sort of come out as four of them as in a block.
Well, maybe I just didn't pay that much attention to chain guns because they are not really as significant in my eyes anymore.
Sure, yeah.
But I remember Keiko's. I don't remember exactly where or how, but I remember that when we were recording, I was Keiko's nice. I think they were flying through some windows or something. Anyways, on to map 6. I guess I can take back a little bit of what I thought initially about the Romero maps being just like if you take all the Romero maps and mix them up, and then of that neatly mixed mixture you just kind of take a spoonful and make a map out of it in a way that like mixes all the elements of all the maps. I can kind of take it back because I mean I played I don't remember there were any other Romero maps in this first level.
Well, map 20, you mentioned you were surprised to find it.
Well, yeah, no, I mean in the 11 levels that we've played so far of this, if there were any more, I don't really remember. But I guess this has, after playing it again, I realize it has a very strong sense of identity, just like any other map. So I guess that's one thing that I really shouldn't repeat, because it's not really fair to say, because, well, none of these levels are nearly as iconic yet to me as the Doom levels, so I wouldn't.
Oh, of course.
Well, I mean,
we don't expect to pull that
from remembering like my Giz levels, especially, a lot of them felt like disconnected areas. They were kind of separate areas you could very easily remember and identify, and they were connected very, very simply, I should say. Like in Underhole, for example, there's tunnels. There's that little basement. There we go. Words escape me.
Yeah.
The little basement. Then there's the brown big brick thing building, and another basement where everything is dark and there's a lot of barrels. And the McGee maps in here, they seem like they were a lot more wholesome, I guess, maybe. But then again, maybe once again, if I played it a couple hundred times, I would remember each room as completely its own thing, and that impression
I hope
would
you would.
change.
I mean, I think of all the three authors, I mean, I left Romero to Tansman and Essel and Pavera because they naturally were able to slide into that. Although I think, myself, Pavera, Essel, Tansman, we all had a crack at doing a McGee map, and I think it's the author that we understood. Part of the reason, I think, is because McGee is the one author who's most analogous to modern mapping. If anything, it's quite surprising when you go back into his maps just how many sort of modernisms are in there, and I'm not sure if it's correct to really credit McGee for coming up with those things, but I think it's actually probably more the fact that it's much easier to slip into that style without knowing much about mapping before you start.
Yeah, as I said
sort of
last time, I
approach.
was always my mapping is a lot like McGee because I concentrate perhaps a bit more than necessary at things being kind of neat and I don't know, less organic shapes, more rectangles everywhere, and then my layouts are usually extremely simple. The things that the vanilla maps that I did for various projects are probably my best effort in trying to do something that is not like what I usually do. Also, well, one of my things about map 6 was that I thought it was maybe a bit too big for map 6, but then again it's not really that big. But
I think it is a bit big, yeah. Well, that was one of the things. I might have mentioned that last time we were playing.
The Crusher is pretty big.
He cut
also,
it down actually by quite a lot. So just think about how large it was to start with. I think it's okay in the end. Maybe a bit large.
Yeah, I noticed a little thing, probably mostly in here and in some other map which I don't really remember which one. But once again, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here. But from what I remember, I feel like in the original game, when you open like the last locked door, with the last key in the level, there's usually the exit was usually pretty much right there. And in a couple maps in here, especially this thing here, the whatever gorge, there is some. It feels like there is some like filler, because after the last locked door, the keys are, they kind of feel like the objectives in the level usually, unless there's some fancy story shit.
Right.
And
You
when
think
you
that they feel kind of superfluous almost?
well, no, not exactly that. I mean, when you find the last key and open the last door in the level, last locked door, it kind of feels like you're done with it. I mean, you did everything the level could have possibly asked you to do, and then there is more of this level. And past that point, to me, it sometimes feels like it drags on a bit much. So I don't remember how it was in Doom 2, if there was often some significant portions of level left after the last locked door. But that's something
I think in terms of quantity, like as for how much there is coming after the key lock door in this map, the Gorge, I don't think it's that different than quite a few of the levels from Doom 2. Perhaps it's just the layout, the sort of way that you really have to sort of half navigate your way around most of the map again just to get to the exit. Perhaps that's what's giving that impression. I mean, the tenements, for example, you open up the key door. You kill the archvile inside, then you flip the switch that enables you to get. And then there's this whole other stupid segment where you have to kill chain gunners by going down corridors to get to the end. That was a really bizarre moment, actually. I think even for Romero, that was really gimmicky and slapped on at the end. So that's one example, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good point. There was a lot more, at least so far. It felt like there was a lot more of that kind of stuff, gimmicky and amateurish stuff that the authors weren't really sure. It felt like weren't really sure it was fun, but it was an interesting idea that they wanted to do. There's not a lot of that here, but again, it falls into that same category of being a bit more competent. But in here especially, I noticed it. I guess maybe because this big room here is the Gorge, and the level used to revolve around it for the most part. But then you go through the yellow door, and there's a whole other part which feel kind of like okay. There's more and more, just in the same texture combinations, but there's more and more and more. It doesn't really have anything to do anymore with a big gorge outside. It's just more corridors, more rooms like this. But I don't know. There's some other map, but I don't really remember which one. Maybe one of the later maps, which also had. I guess maybe we could. No, I don't know. And one point about gameplay also, I found while playing this, while paying attention, that. There's first of all much more monsters sometimes than I ever remember seeing at one time in Doom 2, but stuff like setup battles, like that one thing in your map, in the map 04 near the end, or just monster closets, it feels like there's a lot more monster type mixed in there, because remembering monster closets and such similar traps in the original Doom 2, it kind of felt like they were just stuffed one type of enemy there, like demons or salamanders.
Oh yeah, no, Sandy did that a heck of a lot. And he actually reserved, interestingly enough, Sandy reserved a couple of rules for the way in which he used monsters. Like demons, obviously, they usually came in hordes, for example. Romero, incidentally, he's, well, that's not surprising for Romero. I mean, he does have his rules. Caca demons and pain elementals always come in closets flying out of the sky. That's just something Romero does. Killing all the monsters there.
Well, yeah, that's what I do. But yeah, I don't know. I guess this is again the same basic thing of being a bit more sophisticated.
Yeah.
So I don't know why I'm even listing these points yet. It's good timing that we arrived at map 7 now, because I thought about it for a while, and actually I found that Counterpoint is a pretty nice name for it, because.
I gave you a week, man. I gave you a week to come up with a better name.
No, I didn't really manage, sorry. Well, I just wanted to, I don't know, to kind of justify this name. And it didn't really require the specifically thinking about it, like last time when I was thinking about this scenario with the BFG and getting back to the mastermind fully armed and stuff. When I was playing this, well, not so much, it isn't that hard, but just the whole style of, here are, well, two new types of enemies and one boss monster just there, and there's a big, unabashedly just arena type map. The counterpoint it feels more like the demons were making this counterpoint to us, so it's like, hey, you feel like you're progressing nicely, well, fuck you.
Yeah. Funnily enough, that was the idea, kind of half the idea behind why I named it that.
Yeah, so that works out. I didn't really that didn't come to me first time, but then it came naturally when I was replaying, maybe because I was paying more attention. But I once again want to say that I'm not sure. I mean, the map is really fun to play, and it's really fun to just kind of run around and make everyone kill the poor spider mastermind. But I'm not sure that it really it was worth trying to implement the specials here, because we start, if I remember correctly, there's both monster types already, so we could not really even notice if anything happened after we killed the last mancubus, because we wouldn't really be sure it was the last mancubus, because there's arachnotrons all around it, and we wouldn't really pay attention to the fact that we killed all the mancubi, and then everything just kind of lowers. So I mean, okay, right? It isn't as spectacular and probably as noticeable as in the original maps. So I guess maybe it's not it isn't utilizing the special to its best, I feel, but it's still effective.
I mean, Tomsman really racked his head over this one, and I think he sort of conceded in the end that there's no way that he could live up to Dead Simple, because Dead Simple really is really elemental. It's I mean, the clue's in the title, isn't it? It really is as simple a concept as you can get. It's like, it uses the base special, that's what it's centered around, it's just a fight with there's no other elements to it, really, because what is it? It's a box. So, he really wouldn't have been able to use the specials as convincingly unless he did what was essentially a clone of Dead Simple. So he sort of had to settle for this instead.
Well, I'm not sure he should have even used the specials at all here. I mean, well, obviously there is a need to kill all arachnotrons to get through here, but I'm not sure, especially if we're mimicking the IT style, unless the specials are really justified, and I mean really noticeable. I think they would have come up with some hell-fast way to do it without the specials in this case. They would really implement them. Just if someone was making a map, thought, it would be nice if the player was required to kill all these monsters here to progress. They wouldn't do that. I think they had the idea first and foremost that this map needs to be a big arena map with progression and stuff, and fight progression, and when you kill all the mancubi you notice that everything opens and new waves pour in and stuff. But we kind of talked about it last time, so let's not even waste any more time here on that. I wonder why counterpoint is uncentered here. I just noticed it.
I don't know, it's the same as the boiler as well.
Huh, and the star
and this one, and everything apparently. Interesting.
I wonder if it has to do with the length of the name, which is not in the dech file or something. Well,
interesting.
It doesn't really matter. This map again, pretty much everything as I said last time about this feeling like the counterpart to map 10 of the original, being a map left out from Doom 1 and then made for this. And as last time, the only thing that I have a bit of a problem is God damn it, how did I get back there? This area here feels a lot more like Brave in its use of heights and everything than anything in Doom 1 especially. Come on, I mean, Doom 1 didn't really have anything. I think this entire place is taller than any place in Doom 1 ever.
Tarsman has the figures. He actually memorized what the highest place was in Doom 1 versus the highest place in Doom 2. Doom 2's, of course, came in a lot higher. Doom 1 was flat as hell. So I can definitely see that criticism. I'm just trying to think if Sandy did actually come up with anything as architecturally grand. No doubt if Tarsman's listening to this, he'll be shouting at me saying, Map X! Map X! You can't, what are you...
What? He's not gonna be watching this, come on. But... I mean, I think the highest, the tallest points of Doom 1 are actually, at least from what it feels to me from my memory, noticeable tall points are probably in episode 1, especially in like map 3 with that nukage outside place and a couple more outdoors areas. Those feel like the tallest possible places in the whole of Doom. They really didn't, I don't remember Hell having a lot of tall places, and episode 2 was really flat. So I don't know, maybe map 4.
Now that I think about it, actually, I mean, I guess I could say E3M5 on Holy Cathedral, the centre. It doesn't quite have as much architectural grandeur, but it does have the height. Or maybe it does have the architectural grandeur, now that I think about it.
Well, yeah, but this is, I mean, that was like the starting point is like these 3 doors and the symbols on the walls and whoa, in the cathedral. This here is just like not showing off enough. I mean, if they were to make such a grand place, and I do think by Doom standards this area is pretty freaking grand. If they were to make this, they would have like centered the whole map around it or something. And here is just like a casually thrown in area among all other areas.
I disagree with that point simply because it's based on a Tom Hall map and or
Oh.
what would be a Tom Hall design, and Tom Hall didn't center around anything.
Oh.
He was like Gene Bird in that he just sort of had separate areas that weren't much related to each other. Hence E2 in the original Doom. You know, each of the maps don't really feel like any of their names. Where are the labs in Deimos Labs? I mean,
Well, yeah.
the blue corridors.
Maybe that one place with the crusher.
Maybe.
Or that one place where you have press a lot of buttons to make stairways appear in the top room.
Yeah,
There's
I think you can make an argument for just about every second room in the map.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess. But well, I guess I can see. I don't really know Tom Hall style because I don't think he like made many maps that I remember. Most of, as far as I know, most of maps that he had a hand in from Doom 1 were not in the SNES port, and I don't really remember those maps that weren't in the SNES
Oh,
port.
because that was the first one you played, wasn't it?
Yeah,
SNES?
and the maps that weren't in there, I don't really remember them too well because I never really played through them as many times. I don't really like them as much because of that, I think. But well,
Interesting.
there's a lot of other reasons to not like stuff like Unholy Cathedral, obviously. But some of the maps that I would have probably liked, like that one, essentially the E2 maps past the E2M2 map, which I don't even remember how it's called now, from the top of my whatever. But
Containment area.
yeah. The map that has the secret exit and E2M7. I think I would have liked them quite a bit if I had as strong nostalgia towards them as the other. But I guess, yeah, that's... also, this place, of course, obviously makes me remember the fact that some of the traps here, especially there's always a lot of chain gunners in these traps, surprisingly enough. They make the most difficult traps always. For all the talk about how there is... Ooh.
Hello. Hey, I love that that peg door. Fuck me size, holy shit, it's a goddamn secret, who could have thought... damn it, okay. I'm gonna have to really read faster next time.
You probably
I'll be
should
ready.
just read from the beginning each time, I guess. Remember where you left off. Also, that's the longest you can make the secret message, I think. Like one more word and it gets cut out.
We're at the distance, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, but talking about difficult encounters, I mean... Map 9, the pit, I mean, there's that soul sphere pickup in the... I can't remember the layout of the map, but... it throws about 20 chain guns at you, and Sandy's like, oh, I didn't test this, I hope you survive. Gee, sorry guys.
Well, I guess maybe I have a bit of a rose-tinted view on Doom 2 in that regard, because I don't remember having that much trouble with it ever. Of course, maybe that's just because I already remember everything in there for the most part. I mean, I don't remember the maps too well, but I remember where to expect the really dickish parts. But some areas in here I feel like, well, those you can probably remember which parts I had trouble with in our recording, and those feel like they're pretty much impossible to survive unless you already know that they're coming. Because you wouldn't really go around with a plasma gun in hand usually, and I can't imagine really myself surviving that with a shotgun, because it's way too slow to kill everyone on all sides. Also, when I replayed, I went into all these teleports and liked them all. Just wanted to mention.
Interestingly enough, people often sort of remember Sandy maps as being wonderfully open, and there are a million different ways that you can play it, and that's true. But once you've played one of Sandy's maps several times over, you'll realize that there's only really one way that you can go, unless you want to be assailed by just terrible balance decisions on Sandy's part.
Yeah, we kind of mentioned that
like
last
if you go
time,
left instead of right, you'll come into a swarm of pain elementals or something and have absolutely nothing to deal with them. But if you go right, you'll get all the weapons and minimal opposition. So the non-linearity is there, but there's really only one way to play the map.
But can't you just usually run away if you encounter something really terrible? Like if you go somewhere and there's a shit ton of enemies, you don't have nearly enough weapons for them, you can just like, nope!
Yeah.
You turn around, and in here you can't really escape those traps usually, you just kinda die, and that's it.
Sandy provides both options, I think. And that's actually one of the things that that we here at TWID Software really enjoy and recognize to be as a part of the id design, is being able to just ignore encounters, to just go in somewhere and say, nope, don't want to deal with that, and then just leave.
Yeah, that's
and
always
not worry
nice.
about it again.
it feels more natural, and I'm all about levels in games feeling a bit more natural. I mean, usually in games, if you see like a very dangerous looking hole, you're just gonna go, oh yeah, level designers wouldn't let me die there, I should probably jump in there. I mean, if I can jump there, I mean, it means it's necessary. But it's nice to have options to do really stupid stuff like this. You go into an encounter where you obviously have no chance and just hope that someone will save you, some level designers will save you. And then being fucked over because you did something really stupid.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, I really like that, just having that in games. Really, essentially games presenting you with opportunities to fuck yourself over by your own stupid decisions, and Doom really had that, as well as stuff like Dark Souls nowadays. Also, that's...
Oh yes, you were doing a playthrough of that. I didn't. You've done quite a few playthroughs actually. I didn't realize your YouTube channel was so chock-a-block.
Well, I just recently restarted. I had like a 3-year period of doing shit all, but then just let's do it. And I just wanted. There's some games that I really like enough to where playing them feels kind of pointless because I already like them. I won't kind of show them to people, maybe to Hypocat, maybe to just 100 random people on the internet, and so I don't really want to play them unless I record them, and that's possibly my reason. Also, I wanted to talk about, well, not talk about, but say again about this place that the lighting here, I don't remember Sandy being this fanciful with the lighting ever. I don't know, can you remember anything like this in the original games?
Oh, you mean with gradients? Or are you talking about the holes in the walls?
I'm talking mostly about this being like pitch black and this being very bright, and you come up here, there's these silhouettes of imps and stuff. I think he was kind of more smooth with the lighting, not really to this extent contrast.
Oh no, I think he did a lot of high contrast stuff.
Shows what I remember, I guess.
Incidentally, in the pit, I mean, I'll think of more examples later on.
Well, I guess no use really dwelling on this now, because I am thinking this recap is going to be its own separate thing, video, apart from the other things, so that people who aren't really interested can kind of just skip it. Map 10. Don't remember a lot to say about this map.
Incidentally, just while we were discussing Map 8 a little while ago, and talking about Doom 1 maps being worked into Doom 2 maps, Map 8, our Map 8, is the only example of something where we outwardly tried to do that, tried to create a map, a Doom 1 map first, and then turn into a Doom 2 one. But Doom 2, there's evidence in quite a few maps of them having been made very early in the development process before certain textures came along. And I was reminded of it when you were looking at that one room in Map 8 and you were talking about, you know, this is a bit architecturally grand. Would they have done something like that? And the Citadel, funnily enough, Map 19 in Doom 2, that's a map that is predominantly Doom 1 textures. And so it would have been made very early. It's pretty interesting to note how that map came about, because it's inside of it's very much a Doom 1 layout and design as well. So it's not only a transition in textures, it's the transition in mentality for how, you know, Doom 2's design is going to play out.
Yeah, and just pretty much just the setting doesn't really fit anything in Doom 2.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Like
we don't really have. Now that I think about it, we should have probably included a map like that. I mean, we only did Map 8 as a sort of Doom 1 evolution map. I don't think we did anything else. Would have been nice to include another one, I think. But it's no biggie, I don't think.
It doesn't really matter that much. That would have been an interesting thing to have more maps that you can think something like more. There's more to it than just there's a Zero Marrow map. But it is not really that important. Also, this place, when I was replaying, I nearly died here because I fell off when this was pretty high, and I was down to like 5 health maybe when I managed to get up here and eat all these medkits, and I was like, yeah, thank God, medkits here. And I was really, I was so angry I could eat a horse when I fell down. I don't think that's how it goes, but oh well.
Yeah, one of the other fun things about mapping through this project was being able to use some of the less used specials, line specials. I mean, like, raising and lowering floors isn't a great example because people still do that. A little less often than they did in Doom, but still there. But other crazy stuff like raise floor by shortest texture, for example, which you never see used anywhere. I mean, because people just use dummy sectors now when they want to raise something to a certain height. But there you have it. I mean, that's really fun. And the donut special as well.
Yes.
Things that no one ever uses. They're just great to just play around with.
I remember I watched that one speed mapping session when you all had to use.
That was a
donuts.
disaster.
That was
disaster.
fun. That was fun. It was really interesting to watch Turnsman mapping like in real time. But yeah, that's actually the dummy sectors that you mentioned. It's interesting. Were you really against doing something behind the scenes that it wasn't something that the original IT team would have done? Maybe you could use dummy sectors and such to emulate like a different special or something somewhere.
Right, yeah.
We're really against that.
Our thought behind it was, if it had thought of it at the time, they would have invented a special to include it. And that's the justification we gave for providing dummy sectors, which we did in several maps in order to achieve certain effects.
Oh,
because I think it's pretty clear when you look at certain maps that, you know, that's the way they were thinking, they were going about it. Like, Sandy would have said, "Oh, hey, Carmack, can I do this?" He's like, "Oh yeah, sure, let me just put the special in for you," and then he would have done that.
All the names are.
It allowed us an extra
to the left.
iota of creativity.
Yeah, so I guess that's a yes to my question. By the way, last map? Yes, last map. Kind of like this map, not as much as the boiler. I think, are those both by Pavera, if I'm correct?
They're both by Pavera, yeah.
Right. This map, there is a couple of things that annoy me too much, and it's the inability to get back where you should have been able to get back, like this place.
Yeah. Tonsman talked about that actually. I think we just forgot to put it in.
No reason at all to not let me get back up here. And yeah, obviously this beginning looks like there's way more line deaths here and just anything that in any Doom 2 scene, except for maybe like the Circle of Death, which I guess is kind of appropriate. And it makes for a nice last map of the episode, I guess. I think maybe in this map there's a little bit of that dragging on after the last locked door. Maybe, I don't really remember that well, and I'm not going to just run
a little bit,
through
yeah,
the
but I
map
don't think
again.
it's egregious. I think that's perfectly Romero.
And also I found, when I replayed, I found the legit way you were I don't remember it now, obviously, but I found what I was supposed to do instead of jumping here like I did last time, which I can't even do again, apparently. It was interesting that apparently I found a way to skip a bit. But yeah, this is... I don't know, I like this map.
Yeah, I love that. I love the skips.
So I guess maybe I don't have that much to say, but it was a nice recap, and there's going to be its own separate video now, and we're just going to stop talking for a second so there's an easy cut for me and resume. So for those of you who watched this one, I guess maybe some people are really interested in any things I have to say about these maps, maybe the authors, although I don't think they are quite that desperate. There's been a lot of feedback already in the thread and everywhere. In any case, thank you for watching this, and please come back for the actual real episodes proper, when we play real maps. I mean, new maps. They're all real maps, not just in my imagination. Oh well.